morning blues.
You know, each of us, are in the middle of the biggest universal mystery. We're here. And you know, what we've tried to do at the deep end is give some ways of thinking about this, some broad strokes, so we can kind of take the mystery and at least have some anatomy of it. And so what I want to do today is talk a little bit about the metaphysics of our relationships, the good ones, those called friendship. Remember the three essential processes that are at play: semi-permeability, differentiation, and complexification? Well, friendship can be the growing edge where consciousness is participating in this semi-permeability. It allows the crossing and trust of the other and all their complexities and differentiations. And it allows an opening for what is not me to come in. And what is me, it gives it an opportunity to be shared at an intimate and vulnerable level. And in that moment, we grow. We grow. And you know, and I've talked about growth as the only game in town anyway. I really believe that you know, it's all there is. And what I've learned about friendship and growing as time and distance makes no difference. It's like sitting around a fire and going to take a leak and not, you know, something get distracting you, and you come back 30 years later and just pick up the conversation. There's a piece of this that's just quite amazing called friendship. And we can go down the qualities of friendship, and I want you to think about these in terms of managing your own semi-permeability. Think about this. Friendship as a metaphysical point of managing your semi-permeability in a healthy way for the sake of greater wholeness. The qualities: loyal, trustworthy, honest, supportive, you listen. The other has the best interest. You're accepting, you're caring, positive, forward-leaning, inspiring, patient, comforting, present, committed. And believe it, you can go online and you can find all these lists of the qualities of friendship, and they're all right. And yet they all miss something, because there's this larger thing that's happening that we're each a part of, this oneness of being. And friendship is the point where we trust, where we develop the best and most trust to let others in and let ourselves be shared. Again, managing the semi-permeability. This doesn't just belong to me or you. It belongs to the universe. Friendship is important. It's the place where the universe, where consciousness crosses over. And in all the differences, something new can become at play. So I want to talk about friendship as a metaphysical thing, a metaphysical point where we manage the semi-permeability of our being. We really become healthy gatekeepers of who we let in, how we let in, and we discern the difference between an acquaintance, an associate, and a friend. Small f, big F. And of course we can delineate this 1,000 different ways. But the point is, metaphysically, what's going on here, and I'll be honest, my cohorts here, Bob Hayes and Marianne Rudis, you all are the place where I let you in and I trust it, and it's a delight. And I'm delighted not just to call you co-hosts, but also friends. So when I talk about friendship in the light of this metaphysic that, you know, I've been trying to lay out, or actually I'm letting it emerge because I didn't know where I was going when we started this whole journey. Bob, where do you go?
Well, you know, friendship's an interesting thing because you go through your life and you have, you know, you talked about acquaintances and so forth, but there's something about a true friend with a big F that it's almost beyond definition. It's a sharing, not just of you're almost linked in your journeys. You're pulling in the same direction. You're supportive of each other. And I think that that's probably the most important thing about friends. You hear all of these things about, well, I can always count on this friend or that friend, or this guy will help me move, or this guy will loan me his car, or this guy, whatever. That's part of it, but that's the small part. That's the small F part. That's what a good person does for an acquaintance. But for a friend, you're so supportive of that person's journey that you are willing to share your journey with that person and to find ways in which those two mesh. And I think that happens very infrequently in life because people don't fully open themselves. You don't always know what another person's motives are, what their goals are. And it's only that two-way opening of that lowering of barriers and the feeling that, yeah, I understand where that person's going, and that person's going the same place I'm going, and we're going to get there together. That is really friendship.
Amen. How about you, Marianne? Dear friend?
Yeah, I think, well, I think there's a lot in what you both have just said. So when I think of really true friendships, it alleviates the isolation that we all feel. That's what our friends do. We realize that we are not alone in this, and that there are others that are with us, and many times are going through the same discoveries, the same things that we're going through, maybe in a completely different context. But when we can open up to each other and share those contexts, then we can enrich ourselves, and we learn more about our own lives by sharing the lives of our friends, and vice versa. So I think that that whole semi-permeability is very, very key, because you do become enmeshed with your friends' lives, and at least I do. I feel when they feel, and I think that that's something that again it helps to not feel isolated in this world.
Amen.
and have that connection. So,
and
yeah.
That is huge. One of the things we've talked about here about consciousness is, I used to think consciousness was what's in my head, and I've come to believe that consciousness is what's flowing between us. My head is just a way station for those movements. And, you touched on a couple things, both of you. One is empathy. And that it's very difficult not to feel what the other feels when you become a friend. The other is, the word that comes to mind is allies. A good friend, once let in, becomes an ally in this complex, ever-changing process of health and wholeness. And I think, Bob, when you talk about our journey, that's what we're talking about, is this journey to health and wholeness, and what the hell is it, really? And what constitutes that, and how do we see the difference between what is healthy and not healthy in our own lives, much less in the world, which it's easier to see other people's stuff than our own. And this, Marianne, you came to the conclusion that I believe you grow. Something in you changes, and you grow. I will be honest, I get to pitch the growing edge of my own stuff in this podcast. And I always walk away every week with different points of view, having modulated and expanded and seeing things from a different perspective. And I think that's what true friendship is about. I think that's what the Assemblies of God, which ended up being called church, was about. Those communities where how do we get together and be genuine and real with each other, and not about belief, but about needs, about what is most essential in life itself: food, clothing, homes, feeling supportive. I think, Bob, you talked about that. One of y'all did. So I think that friendship is a gateway to managing this place in our hearts where we have the deepest discernment, and we let other people come in to help us with those deepest discernments. And I'll be honest, both of you all make me feel a lot less alone. Because the world's pretty superficial,
Yeah, but one of the great disappointments in life that I learned is that a lot of people that you think are friends, you find out are really only acquaintances. And you find that your friendship was situational. I won't go as far as to say it was transactional, but I think about friends at work. You see them every day. You maybe go out with them to a happy hour after work. You might even, share activities on weekends and so forth. And then something will happen. One of you will go to a different job, or you'll get a promotion, and the other person is suddenly a different person. This certainly happened to me a couple of times in my career, where I had what I thought was a close-knit group of friends, and then I got a promotion and I became their supervisor. And you want to see how friends fall away from you when you're suddenly in a position where you're signing their time card and you're doing their performance evaluations and things like that. And it's very, very hard on both ends, both individuals, because they no longer feel they can be open with you. That's where their semi-permeability starts shutting down. And you feel like, well, you've got a certain duty to your job. You've got a certain work ethic, and you can't let them cut corners or something like that because they're your friend.
Yeah, and
it
I was just saying,
it really does change things.
Yeah, go ahead, Marianne.
Well, I think that that whole power dynamic, when the power dynamic shifts within a friendship, and you have to have a different role in the world than you had previously, then that is going to affect how you're able to relate to each other, and that's going to start to erode away at the trust, because I think trust is the absolute key that even if you have a friend who's your supervisor, that if you can still maintain that level of trust and respect that they are performing a duty and that they're in a role, and they know that they're in a role, but most of us don't. We take those roles on as who we are rather than something we're doing.
Yeah.
And so I think that real true friends can go beyond that, and you're right. I think people come in and out of our lives all the time, and maybe it's because we grow in different ways, and one of us grows this way, one of us grows another way, and then we no longer mesh.
Yeah.
And that symbiotic relationship gets severed. So
it was told. I was told one time by a Islam guy, a master of some sort. I don't know exactly. He was a Sufi. He said everybody we meet is a part of us that God wants us to get to know better. And I thought that was helpful. And I only took a couple classes in sociology, but I know that there's different sociology. Some people look at the world and see it as a power structure, above and below. Some people look at the world and see it as in a different light. There are different ways of looking at the world, and that's part of friendship. Is it can't be based on something that is not deep. It has to get past one's own biases and prejudices in such a way that we can share our biases and prejudices. And I'm going to say this is about two things: empathy and allowing ourselves to become vulnerable, to be touched, and to dare to say in my own heart, boy, did I get that wrong. Man, oh man, did I get that wrong. And this is part of the journey of health and wholeness, and how friends can help us shave off some of the rough edges that have their roots in a world that either never did exist or doesn't exist anymore. And I'll be honest, me processing my Southern roots, you all have been very helpful in that. I must say.
Yeah. Well, I do think that empathy is a huge part of it, because if a person enters a relationship and sees it as a give and take, and what can I get from that person, and what do I need to do to that person to make them feel closer to me, and so forth, that is very superficial. But it's when you begin to think, well, what does that person really need from me? Do they need somebody who will just listen to them? Do they need somebody who will give them physical support? Do they need, you begin to get beyond, when you stop thinking of what your friend is going to do for you, and you start thinking about what you are going to do for your friend, and the other person is in that same mindset, coming from wherever they are, then that, it no longer becomes a competitive situation. It becomes, I said it earlier, a shared journey. And I always found it kind of off-putting to say, well, I've got a good friend, and I know that friend will always be willing to, take me to the airport, or that friend will be willing to. Well, a true friend would say, I'm going to find a way so that person doesn't have to worry about me going to the airport. They can get on with what's important to them, and I'm going to find a way to help, to support myself any time
and what
I
you're
can.
talking about, Bob, is respect. It's a certain that has to be there, and we haven't really used that word yet. And this is the part of the vulnerable piece, that a true friend I can let in on my story. Not the story people think I am, but the story I am in my deepest place, which is a vulnerable human creature who's, as lost in the mystery as anybody else, but I've got a bit of a sextant, so I can at least find some coordinates and orientation. Orientation and chaos, chaos in orienting to chaos is not a big deal, but spawning new orders, new dimensions of justice and order and ways of looking at things, and that growing piece to me is everything. And I think, again, people want to be heard. People want themselves to be heard, to be seen as a human being. And Marianne, you with your opening statement, that none of us want to be alone. And the fact is, none of us are, because there's only one superordinate happening. We've just deluded ourselves to thinking there's some kind of separation. and part of my friendship with you all is, how do I see through that veil of delusion so that I might reconnect in more ways with that oneness of being and become a healthier human being. Go ahead, Marianne. I think I cut you off there.
No, that's okay. I kind of lost what I was going to say. So, but I think that whole idea that the other part of friendship is a true friend knows you, and they are able to speak a truth to you that you may not be able to hear from someone else. And it's because of that trust piece. So sometimes when you find yourself, Bob, you were talking about how you've got the friend that would always be there for you, right? To do tasks, right? But a true friend wouldn't impose those tasks on you because they don't want to do that. But when it comes to the emotional health, and when you are in emotionally vulnerable places, I think a true friend is someone who will be there for you then. And they can listen to you, and they are also able to give you feedback on how to get out of the loop that you may be in, or bring some insight into, this seems like it's a repeating pattern, or, those kind of things where you almost like a therapist session, but a true friend is someone that listens to you and that you listen to. And so I think, again, it comes back to that connection and that isolation and, yeah, getting rid of that.
And people who we allow to get at least close up can see things that we can't see. We have these blind spots, and we create a sense of self out of these blind spots. And all of a sudden, a friend will say, well, did you know that you do this in this situation? And you go, I did not think about that. And all of a sudden, you'll see something and I think that's part of the growing piece. And the word that keeps coming to mind to me is allies. A good friend is an ally in this complex, ever-changing process, and I've said this before, of health and wholeness. What even constitutes health and wholeness? How do we actually determine that? And then how do we live a life that conforms to what we understand, knowing that our understanding is going to shift and we'll have to reconform over and over? This process, to me, would be debilitating if I didn't have friends. If I was trying to do this all alone, and maybe some people, can go up into a cave and do it all alone. But now we come to the word community over and over, that when friends link up, when we feel safe with each other, we have the opportunity to become genuine community. Calm, share, unity, oneness. Sharing the oneness, that which binds us together. What is those things? Our needs. Food, clothing, safety, education. You see how that works? Over and over it comes back to this. Friendship is the front lines of our managing our semi-permeability. And it's the place where we are not alone. We have allies. Some have whole armies. They're questionable in my eyes, but the first Christian communities were small, and they took care of each other, made sure everybody had something to eat, clothing, place to sleep, a job, or back then a vocation of some sort, some land, some way of making some bread. These were what the communities were about. Beliefs got pasted on them like tar on a tar baby. And now you touch that and you get all sticky, and I'm digressing, I'm sorry. But you're my friends, I can do that with you.
Another interesting
I was right there with you.
Yeah. Another thing that occurs to me is how different my personal approach to friendship was when I was much younger, as opposed to now in the twilight of my life. It seemed like everybody I met was my friend when I was young. And Red Hawk and I have talked about how we had a little group that we started, and we would literally pick up hitchhikers, and they would come and live with us. And it was like that semi-permeability was so wide open when we were that young. And then, over the years, I've become more cynical in my life. I've become more guarded, and it's much harder for me now to open that semi-permeability. So that's something that I got to work on myself. The feeling that you get when you're young and everybody you meet is your friend is just so wonderful. It's so open and it's so fulfilling. But keeping that, you almost have to be a saint to be able to do that.
Well, there's so much optimism in that, right? Because it's like everybody's your friend, of course, and nobody has any ill intent, and but you do have to be a little bit more discerning on who you let in and who you
when
don't.
It comes back and bites you a few times.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. We had a narc guy sitting in our circle, Bob, sharing joints with us or bongs with us, and then he goes to court and say he never really smoked any, and I kept telling my lawyer, how did he inhale in a bong and fake that? My lawyer said no. But so we let people in that we should not have let in, Bob.
That's true. But to be closed down it was almost worth it. I say almost worth it to have that narc in there to keep our openness. And there's a reason why Jesus said, bring the children to me. It's that lack of ulterior motive.
Yeah.
That is so clean, so free.
Well, we actually ended up going back and making friends with the narcs. I'll never forget the guys who busted us. One guy said, "You guys are so nice. I really feel bad about this." And I said, "Well, I don't feel particularly good about it myself." I
don't know if I call them friends.
Well, listen, we're coming. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but we're coming to the end of our time. Marianne, I'll give you the first shot at last words, and then Bob, you can finish up. And I want to just say, any of us who can see the world with the eyes of a child, that's close to what it is. So, Marianne, final comments?
She appears to be frozen.
Oh, Marianne froze. Hold on here.
She's back.
All right.
I'm okay.
You have any final words?
So can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes. I was going to say, so I think our friendships are those people that have our best interest. And ideally, every person we meet would have our best interests in mind, right? But we live in a world where that's not necessarily the case. And so I think that's where that whole discernment piece comes in. But I also believe that when you are a friend, you can overcome a lot of obstacles. So you be a friend, and people will be friends to you. So, yay.
Amen. Bob, final comments?
Well, again, I think discernment is an important piece to it, and I also think that it's worth taking a chance to open yourself to another person, because the rewards of friendship are so important, and it's so worthy of taking that chance. So I think that the keeping yourself open is worthwhile.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen. And it's important also to keep in mind, what is it Santana said? Those who do not remember the past are doomed to repeat it. And yet, what was it Crosby, Stills, and Nash said? Don't let the past remind you of who you are not now. You see, both of these have to be true. We each have a personal history. It's interesting that the word religion comes from the root religare, which means to reconnect. And that history itself is reconnecting, trying to ferret out. And we've talked here about right now, there's a whole new narrative on the rise, and it doesn't feel very good. It's a new way of seeing who we are as a people and not taking the darkness out of the picture. History. What is this history? Well, it's our memory, and we're trying to remember the truth on all the fronts. We hope you'll join us for our next podcast, where we look at history, connecting the past. Is that what real religion is about? Blessings, my friends.